A June without a Nintendo Direct is like an Italian who doesn't talk with his hands. It just doesn't happen. You know, sometimes I wonder how my people play video games and have conversations at the same time. Like, I'm always yelling. But what should we expect at this Direct? Well, with recent reports and rumors, let's do our best to figure it out. First, let's talk numbers. The Nintendo Switch is in its final home stretch with a staggering 141.32 million units sold. If Nintendo's projections hold true, it might even surpass the iconic PlayStation 2 in total units sold. But to achieve that, Nintendo needs to keep the momentum going. So what can we expect? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. First off, I just talked about this one on a video a few days ago. We've been waiting for an update on Metroid Prime 4 for upwards of 4 years, but a few months ago, Jeff Grubb, gaming reporter from Giant Bomb, stated he had a reliable source that a big Metroid marketing campaign would be happening soon, potentially around May of 2024. Well, it's May of 2024, and so far we haven't heard a peep, but we do know that we're having a Direct this June. Could this be when we finally find out more about Metroid Prime 4, a game that's been active development for over 5 years? More so, do we also get the Prime 2 and 3 remasters that have supposedly been in the works as well? Now, if we do, I wouldn't be surprised if these remasters drop day of the Direct along with a near-term launch timing for Metroid Prime 4, perhaps late summer or fall, early holiday season. Also, I'd assume we get a physical copy of both of the remasters as well. Maybe a dual pack, but we will see. Keeping up with the game rumors that are infamously associated with Jeff Grubb, ports of Windwaker HD and Twilight Princess HD. Now again, these have been rumored to be in the works for quite a few years now, and honestly, it's a no-brainer for Nintendo to bring them to the Switch. But even though Grubb got a little bit back regarding these being announced at past Directs and them not being announced, if these games are truly real, this is really the last time for them to be announced. Again, we know Nintendo is officially stating that the Switch 2 will be revealed by the end of the 2024-2025 financial year. And what better games to help bolster the final year of the Switch than 2 legendary titles? Kinda seems like a low-hanging fruit type of win. Now, I will say that there have also been reports that a truly new remaster of a classic Zelda game could be in the works as well, perhaps in the style of the Link's Awakening remake. Some folks have mentioned Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, which, I mean, I could see that, but Nintendo also recently brought them to Nintendo Switch Online, and while I really enjoyed those games as a kid, I also don't think Nintendo has that much passion about them. I'm happy to be wrong though, but if there really is a true Zelda remake in the works, I bet it was something like Link to the Past. It's one of the classic entries, and giving it a little bit of love now might be quite the winning idea. But do we see it on the Switch? I don't think so. I think if something like that is truly in the works, that's something you see on whatever the successor to the Nintendo Switch is. Now, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is now the best-selling game of all time, with well over 8 million units sold, and recent reports suggest new trademarks were filed in Australia for Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, a Wii U game that I personally missed out on, as did many people, because the Wii U only sold about 13 million units or so. But from what I can see, this game looks like a charming entry in the unique Kirby series. It's a successor to the Nintendo DS entry, Kirby and the Canvas Curse, and I'm pretty sure I enjoyed that one, although I was in high school back then, so the years are kind of blurry. But Rainbow Curse looks super charming. It has an absolutely gorgeous claymation art style, features co-op play, and for being on the console equivalent of a Stranded Island, was generally received favorably. So if we're gonna get it, it's gonna happen soon, and I'd be really happy to finally get my hands on it. Now, keeping with trademark filings from Australia, the acclaimed 3DS puzzle game StretchMo, also known as Full Blocks in Europe and Australia, was discovered in the Land Down Under's trademark filings. Now, I didn't have a 3DS until I was almost out of grad school, which is really when I started gaming again, so I missed out on this one as well. But ultimately, they're puzzle-based games in which the main character, Mallow, moves parts of the puzzle around to work their way to the top. Now, if it's true that we're getting this game on Switch, I wouldn't be surprised if it's released the same day of the Nintendo Direct itself. Get your sweat going and be ready to pump some super scopes like Reggie Boy here. Earlier this week, gamers noticed that the ESRB website had recently provided a rating for the Nintendo World Championship NES Edition, which appears to be a new game based on the original 1990 US tournament. Now, for those that don't know, the original tournament used a custom NES cartridge in which players would compete in various minigames of their popular NES games at the time. In terms of this new game, the ESRB description says that, quote, "This is a collection of 2D challenges and platformer games in which players traverse through various modes. Several challenges involve reaching specific points, while others prompt players to defeat small enemies or survive brief battles." Now, the description goes on to talk about the generally animated violence in the game, but popular website Nintendo Life claims that the ESRB description likens the game more so to the NES remix on the Wii U versus the original one on the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is probably a no-brainer for the June Direct if it's on the ESRB website, folks. And Nintendo did a similar World Championship near the end of the Wii U, so it seems like they could have something similar up their sleeves again for the Switches last year. And if you think about it, this kind of makes sense. Beyond having some great first-party games to extend the sales and lifespan, a global-wide tournament really could generate some excitement for the hardware as well. This is the one game that I'll say, yes, 100%, we will see it in the June Direct if not sooner. And if I'm wrong, I want you to come back to this YouTube video, to the comment section, and rub it in my face. Look at me, I do not care. Now, out of all the Wii U exclusives that haven't been ported to the Switch yet, 2015 Xenoblade Chronicles X is right up there with the Windwaker and Twilight Princess as why the heck have they not been brought over yet? Chronicles X development begins soon after the original Xenoblade was released on the Wii, and its engine was the foundation for the Switch exclusive Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It was well received at an 84 overall on Metacritic and includes some unique features that haven't been seen on a Xenoblade since, that being online multiplayer. Now, I'll be honest, I'm someone who's just recently gotten into the Xenoblade series, and I'm having an absolute blast with it. This one specifically seems like it would be right up my alley, especially with the heavy focus on mechs, which for someone like me who ran off the bus every day after school to catch the latest episode of Gundam Wing and Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, well, just color me interested. I feel like this one is a high hope, but who knows? Nintendo and Monolith have done great things for the Switch in the past, and it seems like a shame to leave this game behind. Now, here's one that I would say is very likely, and that's a remake of Fire Emblem 4, Genealogy of the Holy War. Now, in my mind, this was a special game for a few reasons. One, it's one of the more popular Fire Emblem games that never been released in the US, coming out on the Super Famicom in 1996 and continuing said non-Western releases on later consoles, virtual consoles. But also, it's the last game that famed Gunpei Yokoi, maker of the Game Boy and heavily influential Nintendo employee, ever worked on. Again, Yokoi is known for the Game Boy, but perhaps one of his biggest legacies is his philosophy of lateral thinking with weather technology, a concept that I've mentioned here before, but ultimately is about identifying affordable, proven tech and repurposing it in new, fun, and innovative ways. The Game Boy is the perfect example of this. Rather than going full-on for killer screens like the Game Gear and other devices did at the time, Nintendo opted for essentially what was a beefed-up watch screen, which, while technically, compared to its competitors, seemed inferior, they got a ton of juice out of it, and it led to a far more successful device. And this philosophy has been evident in Nintendo's games and hardware ever since. It's basically what the Nintendo Switch is. Rather than going for the most groundbreaking technology, they opted for what was essentially pretty affordable fast smartphone chips to revolutionize the home and portable console market forevermore. Now, why do I think this game is coming out? Well, about 2 years ago, a leak on family boards by an Emily Rogers said it would, and who the heck is Emily? Who cares, right? Well, she also said that a brand new Fire Emblem game was in the works, and she essentially went on to describe Fire Emblem Engage before we knew anything about it, right down to the funky red and blue hair of the main characters, and the ability to summon past Fire Emblem characters to your squad. So I think it has some merit, and more so, the leak suggested it would be quite an impressive remake. So honestly, if this game is announced, the internet will probably go crazy, but I will not be surprised when and if we see it. The last one is something people have thought was in the works for a while, and that's Kid Icarus Uprising, a stellar third-person shooter that was exclusive to the Nintendo 3DS from the granddaddy of Smash Bros. And many other Nintendo gems, Masahiro Sakurai. President of Nintendo at the time, Iwata and Sakurai had a long relationship of working together since back in their HAL days, and Iwata specifically requested Sakurai work on creating a new and exciting launch title for the in-development 3DS, and he obliged, happily. And honestly, it was pretty well received. It did have a unique control scheme for the 3DS, but overall, fans who haven't had a true Kid Icarus game since Of Myths and Monsters on the Game Boy were very pleased. And once again, this is a game I missed out on, but on a video Sakurai did for his YouTube channel a few months back, he did suggest it would be great if a port of the game were to actually hit home consoles. Now, he also expressed some skepticism of it happening, but honestly, who knows? Nintendo has surprised us in the past, and maybe there's been a team working on an Uprising port for a few years. We will see by June. Hopefully. Now, when will this Nintendo Direct happen, folks? Well, last year's was late June, on Wednesday, June 21st, the second to last week, and I'd wager we'd probably see it in a similar cadence, so potentially June 19th or earlier. But I'm not Sean Spencer. I'm not a psychic. I am just a hairy man who likes to make YouTube videos about things that I love. But let me know your thoughts. Are there any specific games you want to see, Wii U ports that I haven't mentioned? Do you think we get a game from a flagship IP that I haven't mentioned as well, like Donkey Kong? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and as always, happy gaming.